Hello everyone, this is Sonic Fiend, and today I wanted to open up a little discussion about in my opinion, often overlooked aspect of the Pokemon trading card game, and that is the stadium cards. So I'm going to start this off by saying, if you're watching this, I'm going to assume you're at least passively familiar with the standard meta of the Pokemon trading card game. Even if you aren't, I'll try and explain things as best I can, but this obviously is going to benefit those who have the info first. And this came about because Liverpool just concluded. That's the most recent regional at the time of this recording. Liverpool just concluded. The winner was, I believe, Nicholas. I forget their last name, but they won with Mew VMAX because Mew is secretly the most goated deck of all time after, I think, Tag Team Mewtwo Mew GX. If anyone who played during that format wants to comment on that, please do so down below. But, yeah, after that, a bit of discussion came because the Mew player won by using Path at the right time, and Path is going to be leaving the standard rotation soon. And one of the Discords I'm in, we had a whole back and forth, like a tame one. Like, it was actual discussion, not like flinging insults at each other as discourses want to do. This isn't Twitter, though you could also follow me at Twitter at SonicFiendFGC. Yeah, a whole conversation. We had a back and forth about what are the best stadiums that are going to kind of replace Path going forward once rotation hits, at least North American side, on, I think, the same day as Temporal Forces releases, so March 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. March, April, somewhere around springtime. So yeah, like a whole discussion took place, and that got me thinking, you know what? I'm going to look at all the stadiums that are going to be legal after rotation. So Path is leaving. What else is leaving of note? I can actually have the list right here. I can bring it up. Mind the ads, because, you know, wikis and whatnot. Okay, so we're going to go by Western side releases. So we are losing, of note, we are losing both the Tower of Darkness and Waters for Urshifu, because that entire archetype's leaving. Old Cemetery is leaving, which, what did that do again? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, attaching an energy to a non-psychic Pokemon does 2 damage counters to it, which was pretty decent for Gardevoir and some of her Psychic decks, because Psychic is such a good, just a generally good type. It still is, really. Path to the Peak, my beloved. Some people hate Path to the Peak, but it was a very necessary evil, if you want my opinion. Shopping Center didn't do anything. Crystal Cave was niche. What was training court again? Once during each player's turn, they may put a basic energy from discard to my hand. That's kind of whatever. The rest of these, I think some decks use Skaters Park. I, for a little bit, was using Stormy Mountain, which I don't see on here. But Stormy Mountain lets you, once per turn, you can put a basic Lightning or Dragon Pokemon from your deck right onto your bench, which I use for Miraidon very liberally. Just as like a stadium bump that I knew they couldn't use. And that's going to kind of tie into what I'm going to do here for this tier list. I made this myself because I didn't see any listing around. Like, I found one, but it was like very, very outdated. It didn't have any of the Scarlet Violet cards. Or any of the recent ones, anyway. So I've included every stadium on this list here. Western releases on the west side over there. I'm doing this, but I can't see myself. I can't see my own preview because I'm bad and only have one monitor. But that's beside the point. Anyway. So the way I value stadiums is like how good are they for your deck, obviously. That's kind of like the baseline. How good are they generically? And if they okay, how good is it for your deck? How generic can this fit into a deck? Like, what's the opportunity cost? That's what I should say. And how much either card advantage or disruption does it provide the player? Or players? Because some of these stadiums are double-sided. They work both ways. Like, for example, like, we could just place this here. I don't know why I put this here, but, Beach Court, for example, pretty good. Just a generic good staple. Beach Court lets, is it all Pokemon or just basics? Actually, let me check. Beach Court introduced in Scarlet Violet base set. Okay, so every basic Pokemon, their retreat is one colorless energy left. Or less, rather. So Beach Court, just pretty good. It helps you pivot your Pokemon. Obviously, this works for your opponent as well, but I think personally it just outweighs giving your opponent the ability to retreat easier. One, doesn't work for all decks, because some decks play heavy retreat cost Pokemon for one reason or another. But even if it does help your opponent retreat more, I think it's still good enough to make the list. To be a generic, right now top are pretty good. I put top 3. I have a couple of ideas who's going to be in top 3. I might make it like top 4 or 5 as we get along. In total, there are about 20 stadiums. I put Beach Court here twice for some reason. I don't know why. But, yeah, so I have top 3, which I think are going to be the most used stadiums, like staples. Like, if you have room for a stadium, you're going to play this card for one reason or another. Pretty good, just generic. It's just a good effect that can't go too wrong if the opponent uses it, in my opinion. Niche and situational, which is very deck dependent. Like, there are a couple of... Here's an example down here, actually. Let's move Calamitous Snowy Mountain, which... Thank you, Bulbapedia. Here we go. Calamitous Snowy Mountain. When any player attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their basic non-water type Pokemon, they take 20 damage. So this is obviously really good in water decks, like Chien-Pao. I don't believe in Chien-Pao as a deck, but that's a whole different discussion. Chien-Pao, Palkia, Fraligator, which I'm going to be building. I don't care how good it is. Totodile is my favorite Pokemon of all time. That entire line, I love them to death. So I'm going to be building that. And whether it's good or bad, we'll have to wait and see. I have ideas, though. But yes, any water type would love that, obviously. Other decks, not so much. And, frankly, unplayable cards, which are just... Why would you consider this for anything? Like this one. This is, I believe, the Training Court. I definitely... I think it said training court. Where is it? Oh, the practice studio. This is what that is. The practice studio. The attacks of stage 1 Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, do 10 more damage to the opponent's active before applying weakness and resistance. This is just bad because it's only 10 more damage. It only works on stage 1s, not even full evolution lines. And besides Goldango, there aren't that many stage 1 Pokemon that are like the primary attackers, except for like Giratina V-Star, obviously, Palkia V-Star, I don't know what else. I think I was looking at a tier list maker. Yeah, actually, here we go. So, yeah, these are like the meta decks and format. I think this is pretty accurate, so let's just assess this here. Mew VMAX, but that's leaving, obviously. Koforgigas. Arceus V-Star doesn't really attack anymore. It's usually just like a Starbirth bot. Giratina. Armarouge EX. I honestly don't know how Armarouge functions right now, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, this is the deck list. No deck worth their salt is going to play this, is my point. No one wants to play Practice Studio. It has no value of any sort, realistically. Not even in pre-release formats would I use that. Okay, so, we're going to go in order of the release of these stadiums, starting from F format. That's still legal. Collapse Stadium. From Brilliant Stars, each player can have more than 4 bench Pokemon. If a player has 5 or more bench Pokemon, they discard bench Pokemon until they have 4 on their bench. The player who played discard discards first. If more than one effect changes the number of bench Pokemon allowed, use the smaller number. Which has never happened at the same time to my knowledge, but anyway. Oh, I'm sorry, this started in Lost Origin. This is the Brilliant Stars reprint, pardon me. So, available in 2 packs, so easy to get. Collapse Stadium, I think, is actually pretty good. Because there are many, many, many situations where you might find yourself with, like a support Pokemon on the bench. Let's say, for example, let's say a Pidgeot EX, if you're playing Charizard. So if you have your board set up and you don't necessarily need your Pidgeot, and let's say you're fighting Miraidon, and that's just a liability, like that's a juicy-ass boss target, then, yeah, you probably want to get it out of there. But, uh-oh, my bench is full. I can't, and I don't have, say, Professor Turo to scoop up the Pidgeot. I think that's how Turo works. In which case, Collapse Stadium might be your best bet, just to get it out of there. And it might also force your opponent to, chop off one of their very important support Pokemon or sub-attackers all their own. So yeah, I would say pretty good. Is it top of pretty good? Do I value retreating or discarding liabilities? Actually, I'm going to put this higher because this could disrupt your opponent as well. I wasn't planning on ordering this in tiers, but I might just do that anyway. Obviously, top 3 will be ordered. Beyond that, we'll see. Unplayable tier, I probably won't care about because they're all varying degrees of bad. Next, in release order, is going to be the Magma Basin. Once during each player's turn, that player may attach a fire energy from their discard to one of their bench Pokemon. If they attached an energy to a Pokemon this way, then they take 2 damage counters. So even though it hurts your Pokemon, Charizard is still like one of the best decks in format right now. Armarouge is picking up speed. I don't know how that deck plays. Obviously, I can't speak to its viability. Let's take a look at the list, actually. Radzard might slot into Magma Basin still. It's not on this list, but Incineroar EX might use that to power up their bench Incineroars or what have you. Technically Skeledirge would use it, I think. Well, actually, no, because Skeledirge is weird. It really depends on the deck, but Skeledirge actually doesn't run many fire attackers, so let's just ignore that for now. And it's not really a real deck, which makes me sad because I love the Fuecoco line. That's also one of my top 5 starters. But yeah, Magma Basin is either going to be bottom of pretty good or top of niche. Because there's also like a stadium bump. Your opponent, unless they also play a fire deck, probably won't use it for anything. And they might not burn a Lost Vacuum to get rid of it. So I'll leave that there for now. We'll assess it later at the end. Next, we have Gatejaw Bog from Astral Radiance. Also in Silver Tempest. Okay, let me read it first. That would be smart, wouldn't it? Whenever either player puts a basic from their hand onto their bench, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Where is Gatejaw? There you go. This is also niche. Gatejaw Bog. There are some decks that want to damage their own Pokemon to make use of, like, some sort of ability. For example, even though it's not really good right now, Tyranitar EX has, like, a super destructive, like, attack for, like, 2 energy that I think doubles in damage once... It doubles in damage if you have any damaged Pokemon on your bench. Also, it's also good for decks that, like, snipe the back row. Let's say... I just fought this on live today. The Reggie deck. Their attacking Regieleki has a move that does, I believe, 120 and then 40 to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that's just good for tacking on extra damage all across the place. Some other decks use this. Anything that plays Hawlucha to spread damage. Though it's not as common anymore. I haven't seen Hawlucha played in quite a while, actually. Meowscarada does, like, do a lot of damage manipulation. They even play Radiant Alakazam as one of their, as their premier Radiant, so to speak. And things of that nature. So yeah, Gatejaw Bog, good bump for a stadium that your opponent uses a lot of, and good for just tacking on chip damage, one way or the other. That's pretty... I wouldn't say niche, I wouldn't say more situational. Really depends on what you're going for. Next, we have... if my eyeballs will work... Jubilife Village. Once during each player's turn, that player may shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 5 cards. If they do, their turn ends. Okay, so that's unplayable. You had me until it ended the turn. If you're playing any, and I mean any effect that ends your turn immediately, it has to be a good-ass effect. The only one that comes to mind right now, I want to say, is Rotom V. The Lost Origin one, I think it's Lost Origin, that it has that ability, I think it's called Scrap Short, that it lets you, I think, draw up to 6 or draw 6, one of the two, and then your turn ends immediately. Some builds of Charizard play it. It's used most in Snorlax Star right now, much to everyone's chagrin. But, yeah. That ends your turn, but it's so integral to those strategies that they still play it. And also, it's a Forest Seal Stone target, so it doubles as a means of guaranteed search later. Jubilife Village does not do that. I think I hit the wrong card. I damn sure did. That's Jubilife. Sorry about that. Alright, next. Okay, that's the re-release of Path to the Peak. Temple of Sinnoh. Alright. All special energy attached to Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, provide colorless and have no effect. Okay, so this... Whoops, I'm looking at the wrong list. This is going to be our first top 3 contender. So, my background, I started playing this game with Giratina. Like, Giratina's my first deck. I still play Giratina alongside Miraidon, and I'm building a Charizard in the back. Temple of Sinnoh, I think, is going to be the card to replace Path to the Peak when that rotates. Because, there are numerous reasons why you might want to play Temple. This was played mostly to counter Lugia when that was, like, best deck in format for a little bit, or, like, tier 1. Nowadays, Lugia is not so great, but let me pull up the actual deck list. So, Temple Sinnoh affects these decks specifically, the following decks. Anything that plays Arceus, because anything that plays Arceus also plays Double Turbo Energy. What else? Zorobox is rotating. Some Gardevoir builds do play Luminous Energy, so that hits them pretty hard. I think most of them do anyway. They might... It's either Luminous or Reversal, but they do play those energies, for sure. What else? Cloth doesn't really rely on energy, and that's just bad after rotation. Lugia hinges on special energy, so that's going to keep that deck down for a bit. They're not here anymore, but Rapid Strike also relies on Rapid Energy, so that was a good tech versus them. DTE Mew is leaving, obviously. And Snorlax plays the upcoming Mist Energy. Mist Energy, also a Jet Energy for Lost Zone players. But Mist Energy, I might be overvaluing this card right now, but you know what? I'm going to bring it up. Let me open a new tab. Hopefully it's already listed here. 1 second. If it's not, I'm going to be sad. Here we go. Mist Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 colorless energy. Prevent all effects of attacks used by Pokemon done to the Pokemon this card is attached to. Existing effects are not removed. Damage is not an effect. So, I might be overvaluing this right now. If I am, then I will look at this video like 4 or 5 months later when we get the card in North America and eat crow. But Mist Energy stops Sableye, which is a very, very important card right now. It is meta. You cannot ignore it. Sablezard, Pure Lost Box, Lost Moon with with Sableye and Roaring Moon as its main attacker. All Lost Box variants, they do play Sableye. And its attack is an effect. It does 12 damage counters. It's very annoying. People hate that card. I'm a Lost Zone player, so I kind of like it. But yeah, that alone, I think, would make that card be played. But also, Mist Energy stops Giratina V-Star Star Requiem, the auto one-hit knockout attack for 10 cards in the Lost Zone. It's its once per game ability or attack. It stops that outright. It does not work. Roaring Moon's attack, Frenzy Gouging, it does 200 damage to itself, but it auto KOs the Pokemon, much like Star Requiem. That also does not work. And who's to say what they print in the future that might constitute the use of Mist Energy? Be it anything in the upcoming, like Paradox Pokemon, the Ancient and Future Trio, or anything beyond that. If an Ogerpon set comes out and one of the Ogerpons has a really, really good ass effect attack, Mist Energy will also stop that as well. So I'm just calling it. I'm calling it right now. Temple of Sinnoh will be played a lot. Like, a lot more than it is right now. It might be the most played, except for one, which we'll get to later. But from that, we're going to move on. Damn, I'm realizing now that made me, like, project my voice quite a bit. More than I usually do for commentary and at work. Okay, so next on the list, Temple, Jubilife. Okay, right here. This is the other one. Pokestop from the Pokemon Go mini set. Or special set, rather. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard 3 cards from the top of their deck. So you're milling. If a player discards any item cards this way, they put those item cards in their hand. Pokestop is also top 3. These two are neck and neck. I'm going to say that right now. These two are neck and neck for, in my opinion, the best stadium in the game. Temple of Sinnoh stops Mist Energy. However, Pokestop will allow players to mill their deck for the upcoming Ace Spec cards. Which means, for the uninitiated, Ace Spec cards are, I'll show you, I'll just pull it up for you right now, because this just cannot be ignored. I can just pull it up. Where is it? So while I pull it up, I can explain it. Ace-Spec cards are cards that can only be used... Or excuse me, you can only have one Ace-Spec in your entire deck. Much the same way as the Radiant Pokemon cards, like Radiant Greninja, Radiant Charizard. You can only have one of any Radiant card in your deck. In that respect, you can only have one Ace-Spec in your deck. Prime Catcher, as of the time of this recording, is the best Ace-Spec in the game. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. If you do, switch your active one of your bench Pokemon. So it's Escape Rope on crack. Because Escape Rope is a card that lets both players switch out their active Pokemon. The opponent switch first. This card is Escape Rope, but also you get to choose which Pokemon comes up to the front. This is honestly like a top 5 card in the game, period, once it releases. And this is an item card, which means Pokestop, if you mill it, you can add that right to your hand and play it immediately. No consequence whatsoever. The only consequence being you might mill some other important cards to your deck. That's why I personally don't like using Pokestop, but I see its value. Right now, I'm on the fence, because Mist Energy, again, I might be overvaluing it. But also, if there is a good archetype, like, for example, the upcoming Great Tusk EX, the ancient one that's actually I pulled one from Paldean Fates. Because that has an attack that mills... Excuse me, its ability makes you mill 5 cards from the top of your deck at the end of your turn, every turn. Which sounds like a lot, but if there is a deck or some archetype that thrives off of constantly milling, then Pokestop is the card they want to play as their stadium, I think. See See, I'm calling this now because, like, with Mist Energy, like, that's gonna stick around, and that can affect other Pokemon coming forward. I don't know how many cards positively are affected by being milled. But also, Ace-Specs are so goddamn broken. Prime Catcher is like a top 3 card, top 5, top 3, maybe top 1, who knows, in the entire standard format. So yeah, it's between these two right now for number 1, but that's the other top 3 contender that I knew was off the top of my head. So we're going to move along. Next up is Lake Acuity from Lost Origin. All Pokemon that have any water or fighting energy attached, both yours and your opponent's, take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon after applying weakness and resistance. This is niche, situational. It's pretty good in the niche category. Where's Lake Acuity? There it is. It's pretty good in that category, but if you're not playing a water or fighting deck, it doesn't help you, really. Which also, you know, is a detriment to your opponent if they don't play those types. In that respect, I might... Do I want to place over Gateshaw Bog? Knocking out the bench Pokemon I think is way more valuable, because that's just going further towards your win condition. This just helps you survive for a bit longer and makes your Pokemon tankier, which is valuable, but doesn't accelerate your win condition unless you're like Snorlax. Actually, let me check. Is it any Pokemon? Yeah, it's any... Okay. But Snorlax doesn't play energy anyway, so that's kind of moot. Kind of moot point. Let's look at the archetypes here real quick. Palkia's Water, Chien-Pao, Garchomp is a Water Terra type, but plays Fighting Energy, so it's good either way. Palkdango, so these two mixed together, is an active set, or active deck right now, so they probably both thrive off this together. I don't know if any Ancient or Future boxes would use that. Rapid Strike is leaving. Tinglu, I don't think is good at all. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah. So, in that respect, is it better than Calamitous? Because that also accelerates your win condition. It might be, actually, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to put Calamitous over Snowy. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, next. Excuse me. I said Calamitous over Snowy. Calamitous over Lake Acuity. Next is Primordial Altar. Once during each player's turn, that player may look at the top card of the deck, they may discard that card from Silver Tempest. It's milling again, but nowhere near as good as Pokestop. Actually, do you add that to your hand? Let me look at that again. Oh, they just look at the card. They don't take it. Okay. No, that's not great. Top of unplayable, because, I mean, deck knowledge is good, I suppose, but for all that, you could play something like the upcoming, I believe it's called Codebreaker Solution, which lets you look at your deck, take any 2 cards and place them at the top of your deck. That's way more valuable than this. So, yeah. It's technically a positive effect, but not a very good one. Next, we have... now we're starting to get into the Scarlet Violet releases. Beach Credit put there already. Mesagoza. Once during each player turn, that player may flip a coin. If I don't know why I said it that. Flip a coin. Flip the coin. Coin match. Last seen in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Very fun format. Anyway. Flip a coin. If heads, that player search deck for the Pokemon. Reveals it, puts it in their hand, and that player shuffles the deck. Oops. Where is it? Alright. Mesagoza. It's not unplayable, but it is very situational. Let me look. Is that any basic? No, search for any Pokemon. Okay, so it's a very positive effect. But your opponent can use this too. If they wind up getting something like a Pidgeot EX with a rare candy in hand, a Charizard EX, any evolution that they need to play, or like a basic, like a Manaphy, a Radiant Greninja, something like that, then you're kind of feeling bad about it. So it's very good, but it's very risky. Which, with card games, there is sometimes some calculated risk involved in making plays like this. But I think it's best if you can play it and immediately, like, get rid of it with, say, Lost Vacuum or something like that. Or if you're playing Roaring Moon, you can use, and you have it ready to attack, you can use its second attack, Calamity Storm, I believe, to discard the stadium and do a shit ton of damage. It does 220 after that. Yeah, yeah. It's a very good generic card. Like, its effect is very good, but it is a coin flip, and your opponent can use it. So, with that in mind, I'm going to put it under Magma Basin. Alright. Next. We're winding down. I put Calamitous Snowy. Calamitous Wasteland. The retreat cost of each basic non-fighting type in play is 1 colorless more. I think Snorlax? No, because they just stopped retreating regardless. This is very good. Is it pretty good? Maybe not. But it is very effective. I think this is best used in, like, some sort of lockdown deck. Snorlax is, like, the king of lockdown install right now, but as far as I know, I could be wrong. Lax players correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, they don't really play this, and they don't need a use for it right now. They're probably gonna be playing Temple Sinnoh at max to stop Jet Energies. Is it better than Gatejaw Bog? Each basic non-fighting type, which, in this meta right now, if you're playing a big basic, none of them are fighting type that are relevant. Not at this moment, anyway. You know what, let me look at the list again before I look stupid. Yeah, no. Okay, that's what I thought. So every basic. So yeah, this technically affects every basic, because there are no big basic archetypes, fighting archetypes right now. The closest we had was Urshifu Rapid Strike, and that's leaving. And they didn't even play that. They played Tower of Waters for the free retreat. Yeah, technically positive. If you boss up a Pokemon that you know the opponent can't retreat easily, like a Bibarel, then suddenly, oh man, they're stuck. Especially if they don't have, like, Switch Card or anything like that. I think this is about right here. Yeah, I'll take a look at it again later. Next, I looked at Practice Studio. Next is the Pokemon League Headquarters. Attacks used by each basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, cost 1 colorless more. Okay, so Where are you? Okay. This is pretty good. This is actually pretty good. Because if there are any big basic attacking archetypes like Miraidon, Roaring Moon, EX, Chen Pao as well, then this makes life a lot harder for them. The thing is, like, I thought when this first released, I thought it was very good, but a lot of decks did not have the deck space. But with Path leaving, if your deck played Path, you could replace it with this. I think this might be best used by... I was gonna say Gardevoir, but they're playing Moonlit Hill now, probably. Which... I'm realizing I did not put on the tier list maker. God diddly damn it. Okay. Let me just finish my thought before I lose it. Point being, if you're playing a deck that doesn't revolve around basic attackers, and you don't have anything better to play, I think this is the way to go. Is it better than Beach Court? I think it is, actually. Yeah. Again, in that respect, it really depends on your deck. You could make a case for it being top of... You could make a case for it being top of situational, and I would not hold it against you. But I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna leave it there. Next. Oh, I totally skipped it. My bad. Artisan. Here we go. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a basic Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box and put it on their bench. Then that player shuffles their deck. Okay. This... So I opened this video talking about a Discord I was in, having, like, a deep conversation about this. Artisan is the card I had the most to say about. So here's the thing. Artisan is very good. It is a great consistency booster. However, in the upcoming set, we're getting an item card called the Buddy Poffin. It's replacing the VIP pass, which is rotating out this format. Thank God. Like I'm a Giratina player. I hate VIP pass. I hate that card so much. Anyway, thank God it's leaving. Oh, I missed an earlier stadium as well. Okay. But anyway. Buddy Poffin lets you search for any basic 70 HP or less Pokemon. It lets you search for 2 of them and puts them right onto your deck. Or onto your bench, pardon me. The thing is, VIB Pass was absurdly broken, but it only worked turn 1. That was its drawback, even though everyone played it at 4 copies. Buddy Poffin does not have that drawback. You can play Buddy Poffin at any point in the game. It is insane. It is insane inconsistency for the decks that can run it. And those decks include, but are not limited to, because, you know, future decks are coming. Future Evo decks, I should say. Okay. Those include all variants of Charizard. Of Charizard EX, I should say. All variants of Charizard EX. They have Charmanders. Baxcalibur. They have... Frigivax. What else? What else? What else? Garchomp. Those have Gibbles. I believe Gibbles 7 HP. Gardevoir. Those have Ralts. Goldango. Those have Gimmighoul. Any Lost Zone engine has Comfey. What else? Meowscarada has Sprigatito. Even though it's not a real deck, but, you know, listen to me here. Miraidon has its own engine for that, so it doesn't need it. Roaring Moon, I think, would only get more Peko from this. I think they probably want Pass more than anything else. Banette is a bad deck, but it will let you search for Shuppet. Serena, which is becoming an increasingly alright rogue deck. They can fetch Bounce Sweep. I forgot Armarouge. That can fetch Shark Cadet. And does Snorlax have a 70 HP? I don't think they do. Point being, I named like 9 or 10 decks. Buddy Poffin is the consistency card for all of those decks I just named. So, in that respect, Artisan only works for Pokemon that don't have a rule box. So you can't get Vs, you can't get EXs. You can't get any of those. You can't get a Radiant Pokemon like Greninja or Charizard. You can't get those. And on top of that, your opponent can also use it to further their own strategies or what have you. So with all of that in mind, my point was, what use is there for Artisan really? It's still a good card. It's still a very good card, don't get me wrong. But where it used to be pretty good, like around here-ish, I think now is around niche / situational around here-ish. I think it is still better than Mesagoza. Because, and again, I ask you, serious question, if you have an answer, please put it in the comments down below. What use do you have for Artisan when you could play any of these stadiums above it? That's what I'd like to know. And until I see that answer, maybe something comes out later that might bump this back up again. But until then, if there isn't anything for Artisan to do that isn't done by not just Buddy Poffin, any in-engine searcher like Miraidon for all lightning types, for the upcoming Future Box, they have what is it, Radar, that searches any 2 future Pokemon. Basic, I think. What else? Pidgeot EX, if you pop that off turn 1, can search everything else for you for free. Because Path is leaving. Nothing stops it from doing that now. And there are item cards for that too. Nest Ball, Ultra Ball. Master Ball, if you play that A-Spec for whatever reason. I don't know why you would, because Prime Catcher exists, but let's say you have like an old print of Master Ball and Nova A-Specs. You could play that as well. What is Artisan doing that any of those cards I just named and these stadiums can't do? That's what I want to know. So, in that respect, I think Artisan is here. It's not unplayable, it's still a good card, good consistency, but I don't know where I'd put it in any deck. Okay. With that passionate rant over, we're gonna move on. There are only 6 here left here. I could stay on this page. The town store. Jesus, all that passionate ranting made me like a little dizzy for a second. Pardon me. I got food after this. Okay, we're almost done. Town store. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a Pokemon tool, reveal it, and put it into their hand. Then that player shuffles their deck. Alright, so, town store. I think it's pretty good. Arven is still a top-class supporter that fetches you an item and a tool card, but in case you don't have access to Arven for whatever reason, you have Town Store to fall back on. Your opponent can use this as well, so be wary of that. Let's say you're playing Charizard, you drop the Town Store, and you don't have a means to get rid of it after using it. Your opponent might be playing TM De-Evolution. They will go, oh, okay, I'm going to, use that Town Store, get my TM, de-evolve your Charizard that you probably popped with a rare candy, and then GG. What then? So, yes, there is inherent risk to that, but with that said, I think it is... Is it top? Is it better than Collapse Stadium? I think it is, actually. It might actually be top 3, given what's left. Yeah, I think it is. I think that rounds out the top 3. Bottom of top 3. And then either Pokestop or Temple Sinnoh. I'm on the fence. Right now, I'm leaning towards Temple, because that future-proofs any broken Pokemon that might come. But again, if you made the argument for Pokestop, I probably wouldn't stop you. Alright, I put Beach Course twice for some reason. After that, Lost City, which I somehow skipped over going by release order. Lost City, pretty good. What does it do, you ask? You might think... Here it is. You might think Lost City from Lost Origin. Whenever a Pokemon, either yours or your opponent's, is knocked out, put that Pokemon in the Lost Zone instead of the discard pile. Discard all attached cards. You might think, given the name, that Lost City is best used by Lost Zone players. Not actually the case. Because Lost City... I want to say more decks that don't play Lost Zone engine at all use it more than Lost Zone players themselves. Because what it allows you to do is when you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, let's say for example, let's say you knock out your opponent's Iron Hands EX, right? Most decks only play one Iron Hands. So if you knock it out and Lost City is the active stadium, that means the opponent can't get it back with like a Super Rod or anything like that. They can't fish it from the discard pile. It is considered lost. It is out of play for Yu-Gi-Oh players. It is banished. You cannot interact with it. You cannot get it back by any means necessary. You drop your Supreme Drip right now, you have to shed that, you have to strip it and toss it out. By any means necessary, you cannot interact with the Lost Zone. So, if your opponent plays Pokemon that they might want to fish back later if they're knocked out, they can't do it. So, with that in mind, I think Lost City is top of pretty good. Okay. I didn't put it in the tier list maker because I'm dumb and forgot. But Moonlit Hill, let me pull it up. I guess I have to go through Japanese now. Or it's not here for some reason. Okay. Whatever. I'll just search it up. Moonlit Hill, right now, is currently only being considered for use by Gardevoir decks. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic Psychic Energy from their hand in order to heal 30 from each of their Pokemon. Okay. So, for the uninitiated, there it is. What Gardevoir does, primarily, is it powers up its Pokemon on I think all Pokemon, not just the bench ones. It powers up all their main attackers by throwing Psychic Energy on them from the discard pile, but every time they do that, for every energy, they take 20 damage. But there are attackers like Screamtail and Drifloon that do massive damage by having more damage onto them. So they want to be damaged, but in case they don't have those ready, it's also good for just healing their main Gardevoir EX attacker or any other Psychic type attackers they might have to play. And this goes for any other future, like, strong Psychic archetypes. I can't think of any right now. But, yeah, Moonlit Hill, I think Moonlit Hill might be the premier stadium for all Psychic type decks going forward. So, with that said, I don't have it on Tier List Maker here. I would put it... Let's pretend the card is here. I would put it at... probably the top of niche. It's like back and forth with Magma Basin, honestly. Because Magma Basin accelerates your win condition, but is hurting you. And might hurt you in a way where the opponent might get a snipe. But if you're godlike, it might not matter anyway. So, Moonlit Hill, I will put second in the row between Magma Basin and Artisan. Next is Cycling Road from the 151 expansion. That's where that's from. I was about to say Pokemon Go. That's not correct. Oh, shit. Cycling Road, I believe... Cycling Road basically lets you take out... It lets you discard one energy. Here it is. There. Thank you. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand in order to draw a card. Okay. Yeah. So discard an energy, draw a card. It is a weaker version of Radiant Greninja. Radiant Greninja, for those who don't know, lets you discard one energy card to draw 2 cards, which is just awesome. So this is a weaker Radiant Greninja on a stadium. In that respect, with that in mind, honestly, I think I will put it at bottom of pretty good. Because there are plenty of decks like any Charizard, any fire deck that plays Magma Basin once can use that later. Anything that plays Super Rod will definitely use that for later. Yeah. I know this is in some Roaring Moon lists. Is it better than Beach Court, actually? I'll leave it where it is right now. Though it is drawing cards. Now I'm second guessing. Is it better than League Headquarters? I think it is. I wouldn't put over Collapse, though. I'm going to put it here. And that, for now, we'll bump Beach Court to the bottom of pretty good. Yeah, so... The thing with Cycling Road is, if you're not using a top 3 stadium, it is probably hard to find the deck space to put this card in. But for what it does, you really can't go wrong. That said, the opponent can use it as well, so be careful. And the last 2 are actually from the upcoming Temporal Forces sets that have not been released yet. But I will pull them up. I gotta go back quite a bit. What are they called? Let me just look up the set name, Cyber Judge. Alright. Stadium. Oh, it has both of them. Perfect. Okay, so the first one is called Dangerous Jungle. During Pokemon Checkup, put 2 more damage counters on each poison non-dark type Pokemon, because poison is lumped under dark in the standard format right now. Both yours and your opponent's. Okay. This is very niche. It's not unplayable, but it is very niche, just because poison as a status is so not good right now. Well, it has its uses, like Cloth and Hisuian Electro, that package, they play this the most. They play Poison the most with the Brute Bonnet. But after rotation, that deck's dying because it loses the Curry that also was integral to its strategy. And there's nothing else that really poisons effectively right now, unfortunately. Like, Radiant Hisuian Sneasler isn't being used outside of Cloth decks. So its poison ability also doesn't really matter. Yeah, so... Damn, is it unplayable? Shit, it might be. Yeah, I can't justify it for anything, really. Yeah, I'm gonna put it top of unplayable for now. I would love a poisoning archetype to come out and be good. That will make this really captivating for that deck. But until then, I can't do anything with it. I can't see myself using it for anything. And lastly is going to be the Full Metal Lab. Metal Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, take 30 less damage from attacks from the opponent's Pokemon after applying weakness and resistance. Okay, so there is... I've not seen this for myself, so I can't like clarify. I don't know the list. But with Temporal Forces, there's talks of an upcoming good metal archetype that involves Origin Dialga. I don't know how it operates. All I know is that it wants to use the upcoming Metang that accelerates metal energy. So, in that respect, if it pops off, if that deck pops off, also Goldango can use this too, I'm realizing. Because Goldango has like that sweet spot HP that is very annoying to hit for anything that's not like Giratina or the upcoming Incineroar. Yeah. So if Goldango and that metal archetype, whatever it is, if the metal archetype pops off, I would put it at top of situational. If it doesn't, it's gonna be... I think it'll be above... It'll be below Artisan, but above Mesagoza. Just because Goldango is picking up in usage. That's something to consider. Okay. Thank you all for sticking with me if you've been with me this entire time. Or if you were just alt-tabbing, if you had me in the background. Thank you, I appreciate it. It just means of all the things you could have in the background, whether you're editing or doing some type of work or working out or what have you, or grinding, whatever the case may be. If you chose this video of all videos to, you know, listen to, then I'm happy about it. But this concludes my tier list of stadiums in post-rotation format, FG and H block. I think, yeah, I don't see anything I want to change right now. I might revisit this later whenever, like, the next major set after Temporal Forces releases, whenever that'll be. But yeah, and I will also leave a link to this tier list maker in the description of this video. But for now, thank you all for watching. I have been Sonic Fiend, and I need to get some food in me. Have a great night, everybody.